for example, I could be like, man, I ain't messing with this dude, he white. Yeah, we can be prejudiced about things like that. But
yeah, so that's not being racist.
No,
you're saying that's being prejudiced.
A prejudice, because anybody can be prejudiced. Anybody can be prejudiced against anybody because being prejudiced.
But once you interject race, once race is the source of your bias, that is racist, my friend.
But at the same time, as being a racist, you are basically in your power to use one of Dr. Umar Johnson's words, systematically putting a disadvantage on another race. We aren't in enough power to disadvantage.
People have said that, and that is the biggest load of crap that I've ever heard.
How so?
If easy, I need to ask that. Let's just say that the three of us gentlemen own together. We own a franchise of a McDonald's.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. You mean Ray Kroc's McDonald's?
McDonald's. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Violet runs the McDonald's for us. Okay. We tell her we only want black and Latino people working there. Period.
Nothing wrong with
that. I don't care who comes in for an application.
Nothing wrong.
That's what we want.
Nothing wrong with that.
She gets an applicant who's white, who's qualified. You know what I mean? He like got a lot of fry experience, and she wants to bring him in to work the fry station. We like, no. We said no white people, right? We go back and forth, right? She says that we're being racist because why won't we hire somebody who's qualified, right? Based on that. She would have an argument there. She could take it further. She could take it to the EEOC or whoever and use that as the example. Now, you say we don't have power. We got power over our McDonald's franchise to hire who we want to hire.
Ray Kroc's McDonald's?
No, it's ours. It's ours.
No, you mean the
franchise.
You can buy the franchise, but it's still under Ray Kroc to a degree. Now, in terms of that, I'm glad you brought up because that was an excellent example, but this is where it falls a little bit off the tiers because what we're talking about has actually been done forever.
What has?
I don't believe that no white person has ever not spoken up for a few blacks to be like, hey, Jamal is qualified. But at the end of the day, Billy Johnson or Billy Joe, whoever you want to say who owned it, he's like, yes, he may be, but I got a cousin, I got a friend, I got a such and such, and that's as far as it goes. See, we can look at these things in terms of individuality, but in terms of a whole, these are the things that get done to black people time and time again.
Umar got him fired up.
That's right. That's Philly.
Let's flip it for a minute.
Like a bird.
Let's say that Africans went to England back in the 1600s.
They tried. Go ahead.
And took some white people as slaves. And we flip it. Let's flip the whole thing over.
Flip it all.
And let's say that they took.
Got my attention now.
Let's say that the African, an African nation took a gang of white people to this country, and we did the same thing in reverse, right? Like and the black people were the dominant race, and now white people are sitting where we're sitting, and we're sitting where the white people were sitting.
Yes.
Okay.
The same exact rules would apply. Everything would be the same. It's just whoever was the dominant power.
It wouldn't be because...
And it just so happens, unfortunately, that it happened to us.
South Africa.
Well, yeah. But, that's true. But you know what I'm saying? So it's just so happened that we are the ones who got the short end of the stick.
Right.
The same rules, like I was saying earlier, the same rules don't apply to the people who are at the disadvantage that apply to the people that got the advantage.
Exactly.
But we always say, well, they do this, but they got the advantage. They got the games fixed for them. They got the reps in their pocket. They got the most endorsements. They got everything, and we just, they got better uniforms. They got everything.
We
can't
cool
do the same, right?
The
we got to practice harder. We got to work harder. We got to be smarter. We got to be slicker with us. We got to do all that until we can get into an advantage position.
Okay, that actually brings up something that you just brought to me. How we always say we have to work hard and do all this. Then how do you feel about, let's say, for those white people who still are style?
Culture vultures.
What about that? Like, we worked really hard to get somewhere, and it's like
we talked about this a couple times.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay, definitely did.
That's not just culture.
And we co-sign those people. Eminem. Justin
It's
Timberlake,
deep, exactly. It's
Macklemore.
deeper.
Hey, Justin
Yeah.
Timberlake is talented. I like Justin Timberlake.
Elvis Presley.
Let's leave Justin Timberlake.
They've been doing it from the beginning of
It's not just
time.
the
Yeah.
music. We're talking about just
Just
life,
life.
period.
In general,
But
just
the
of
thing
everything.
is, the reason why we most likely not say give it away is because when it's only in our hands, it can only go but so far because the structure is set up like that. We're not talking about in our lifetime. We're talking hundreds of years back. That's how it's always been.
Right.
We're the ones that put in the work. But if it stays with us, it's probably only going to go but so far. As bad as this sounds, civil rights movement wouldn't have even moved as far as it have if it wasn't any white people involved.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I agree
Like,
with
yo,
you.
like
Yeah.
we still gonna need white people to advance with everything. Why do you think? Come on, I forgot the
Well,
dude's
I
name.
can understand of them helping, but I'm talking about them stealing it in terms of them saying we did the work, and then they come and saying, "Oh no, we did it."
Kind of the
For-
way they put their name on the civil rights movement.
Because
Exactly.
because
Like
it's
they
just what
say,
he's
"Oh, we
but
did it."
it's just what he said. If their involvement makes it more mainstream, which helps us get it to the mainstream, because at the end of the day, it's going to take just like the fight against the Islamic State has to include Muslims.
Okay.
The fight against racism in America has to include white people. It has to. It's impossible for it to not. Unless you're talking about taking them all out, which they ain't talking about that. So unless you're talking about that, it has to be an inclusive thing. We have to include the ones that understand and make sense. And if any of those gentlemen or the lady that was on that panel was able to articulate that, then I think that they would have had his respect, because they was just, I don't know what the hell they was talking
I
about.
don't know, whatever. Either.
But we'll get to that in a second. But
Yes.
But I say all the same thing. Me personally, somebody asked me, well, how do you think racism and everything else, all the black, white, the color lines, things can get blurred or it can be abolished and that'll be it? I personally believe this whole thing has to start all over on some straight up book of, I'm talking about some straight apocalyptic
nuclear.
book of Eli shit. Like everybody has to start from zero. I don't personally think it can happen because
Current state of
these
affairs.
old rules they've been in place for thousands of years. This is just what it is. It's the same people. Like, even when we talk about the police and we be like, well, they're here to serve the public. Yes, but they're still human. They're still human beings.
Yeah.
That's it. You can give me a law. You can give me a rule, a book. You can give me a guideline and say, this is how you have to police the streets, the nation, whoever it is. But I'm still a person. I'm still a person. That's it. Like, I could probably never be a police officer. Not in terms of integrity and things like that, but in terms of you know what's so crazy about selling drugs, and it's not about a plus, because that's not the only way you can get money, but we all know in crime-ridden areas, crime's gonna happen. People kill who lives next to them, and that's just not black people. That's white people. That's anybody.
That's poor
And-
people.
And in
That's just
poverty,
people,
you're
yeah.
going to kill who's next to you. You're going to, all these things are going to happen to the people that are close to you.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say this. I personally know people that are really hustling for real because that's the only way they know to feed their family. Now, somebody else might be like, that ain't the only way. Yo, you got a couple of strikes on your chest. You don't know any people. See, that's the whole thing. A lot of us are college educated. We know people from other states. We know people from other classes, things like that. Whether we left Baltimore or not, or left New York or not, or whatever, we've been exposed to different cultures, different people. If we would have never went to college, should have never left the West Coast and things like that, how would you know? She's coming from California, and now she's sitting next to somebody who's from New York. Yo, you know what? You and your fiance, whatever, yo, come up to New York, I'll be your guy. La da 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 da. Yo, matter of fact, I want to go to California. Let me call him Violet.
I'll be your guy.
But if I've only always been on the block, how am I know somebody from California? Unless somebody from California that they put the Tupac, they went to the store next thing you know, they wound up
Live in Oakland now,
that
nigga.
shit's it. Or whatever. That's the whole thing. So it's like, yo, if you don't have these outlets, you're going to only do and know what you know. No more, no less. But before we finish this, I'm glad for everybody that's tuning in. We're going to pay some bills for a second, but we're going to be right back because the spirit of Dr. Umar has came through me, and I'm ready to let people have it. Yenny Social G, Beautiful Lies, Ugly Truth. Be right back.
Peace.